cloud here. Awesome. Well, hey, Epic Florida. Super excited to have you on today. This is a Sky Slope training. So, yes, the state of Florida is changing over to Sky Slope, and we are super duper excited to kind of get away from Dot Loop and get into the Sky Slope. So basically, this will be recorded. It'll be available to all of the agents. So you'll be able to share this with agents moving forward. But I do have the great pleasure to introduce Shantae from the SkySlope team, who is going to do the presentation for us. And looking forward to it. So pay close attention, but do remember this is recorded. We will have questions at the end. Please don't interrupt in the middle. Please keep yourselves muted if possible. Thank you so much. And Shantae, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Actually, I was going to say that as well. Today, we're going to be focusing a lot on everything, that SkySlope has to offer, and I'm going to be doing a lot of talking. So if you have any questions, please don't unmute yourself. Please put any questions you have into our chat. I have my wonderful colleague, Callie, here today, who is going to be able to answer any questions that you have. So again, please just direct those to chat. Keep yourselves muted just to ensure the quality of this. That way, when it gets sent out, it is the best version it can be. But as I mentioned, today is going to be focusing on our SkySlope training here for agents. As you start to transition into our platform, you are going to be utilizing SkySlope for pretty much everything you do within your daily workflow. And as I mentioned, I will be doing a lot of talking. I don't expect for you to walk away remembering everything we covered here today. However, if there's one thing you can leave with, it is to feel the support of our support team. We have a few different ways to communicate directly with our support team. You can pick up the phone, you can have an instant chat with them, and one of my favorites, you can have an email correspondence with them where you could send over a list of questions, maybe some screenshots, and you can. I'm going to go ahead and just make sure everybody's muted.
I'll go ahead and do that, Shantae. I'll make sure
Okay,
everyone is muted. Don't worry about that.
awesome.
Danny and
Thank
I
you.
will.
One of the other things that I like to cover here for our support team is as you start utilizing the platform, it's totally normal for you to feel a bit intimidated to ensure that you are doing everything correctly. And our support team can schedule screen shares with you. So if you want to walk through with somebody as you're going through it, call them, schedule that. They're happy to hop on a screen share with you. It's one of my favorite ways to learn. It's also one of my favorite ways to teach. Now, today's steps are going to be what you see here. We're going to go ahead and utilize our forms here that are integrated within SkySlope. We will then execute those association forms utilizing our integrated digital signature tool called DigiSign. In step 3, we are going to go ahead and turn those in by creating a property file. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right on over to my SkySlope account. This is going to be the main page that you're brought to, and this is what we call SkySlope Suite. This is when you log into your account, the first thing that you will be brought to. And for my admins that were in my admin training, you see it looks slightly different here. All features are the same for both you and the agents. Now, in my demo account, I obviously have the SkySlope logo up in the upper left-hand corner. Please know that this will be replaced by your brokerage's logo. However, that logo acts as a home button. So anywhere you are within SkySlope Suite, all you need to do is select on this logo here, and it will always revert you right back to your main page. Underneath that is going to be a search bar. This is where you can type in numbers and quickly find any address or property files with that address. And then below that are going to be hyperlinked icons that you can select on into to see what you are individually working on. So let's say I wanted to look at my active files. I could quickly hop on into this here and view all 46 active files. Now, when you are ready to officially start creating a file, no matter if you're representing the buyer, the seller, every single file creation will always begin within SkySlope Forms. Now, this again is SkySlope Suite, the main page that we are brought to when we log into our SkySlope account. However, the first step in creating a property file is always going to begin on the forms portion of SkySlope. So in order to get to your forms, you'll locate the apps icon in the upper right-hand corner. You'll get a drop-down box and you're going to want to select on that first one here, which is forms. Now, the first time that you toggle on over to forms, there will be some setup that you need to do on your behalf. And that is going to look like when you find your name in the upper right-hand corner, you'll get a drop-down box and you'll want to go ahead and select on user profile. Now, this is where you're going to be able to enter in your personal information. Scroll on down, you can enter in your brokerage information. And this information is going to automatically populate as you start utilizing the association forms within SkySlope. Today's theme is going to be showing you that we want you to have the most efficient workflow that you possibly can. So being proactive in some sections of SkySlope is going to allow for you to reduce as much manual work as we can possibly apply there for you. The one thing that I do want to cover, I know that there are some of you that work within different regions. Please indicate every region that you serve within, even if it's just Florida. Make sure you add Florida here. What this does is it grants the visibility to any brokerage templates or broker specific forms that your admin team has set up for you. And then once you're done entering all this information, of course, just make sure you select save. And then the next thing we want you to set up is going to be on the libraries tab. So the benefit with SkySlope is pretty much everything you need is integrated into SkySlope. And that is even including your association forms. And maybe how you're currently, grabbing those association forms as you're navigating on into many different platforms. We want you to have everything accessible here, right here within SkySlope. So if you need to go in and add in, let's just say the Naples Area Board of Realtors, or even the Florida, anything that you need here, you'll search for those libraries and you'll select add. Now, the only time that you need to enter this information in is going to be the first time you add a library to your account. And it will ask for your last name as well as the NRDS ID affiliated with that to ensure you are in fact affiliated with that library. Once you are able to successfully add that, they will remain underneath your connected association libraries, just as you see here in my demo. Now, as I mentioned, your first step in creating a file is always going to begin within SkySlope Forms, and that's exactly where we're at now. So we're going to go ahead and proceed by selecting Create. And then it's going to ask us some information here. So first one is, who are you representing? I'm going to go ahead and select the seller for this demo. And then our client's first and last name, we'll go ahead and input that in, as well as her email. And then is there a property yet? So I'm going to go ahead and input in our property. And then the next one is, how would you like to name this file? So that main forms page we just came from, this is how you're going to locate this file based off of how you name it. So personal preference of mine, I like to keep it with the property address. Just know that you can always toggle that on over to the primary client, or you can always customize that here as well. Now, the next is going to be, do you want to start with one of your templates? Your brokerage has gone in and created brokerage-wide templates. And the purpose of templates is to be proactive. You all work within your own files. You know the documents that you're typically sending when dealing with different types of, let's just say, like residential sales. Rather than grabbing in those documents individually each and every time, you can be proactive with creating templates and pulling those templates when creating a file. And I'll show you the benefit of that. However, first I want you to notice that you're only seeing seller representation templates. So whatever representation you choose here, who is the client seller, you're only going to see templates that would pertain to that specific type of representation. But we're going to go ahead and go down and find my template here. Select that, and then we'll go ahead and select create. Now, just like that, we've created our first forms file. Here is going to be that street address that we've input in. And then underneath that, you're going to see a few different tabs. And the first tab that we're currently on is our forms tab. Because we grabbed that template, it pulled over the documents that live within that template. However, we do know that there are certain cases where you need to add in additional brokerage forms and you could, or association forms, and you could do that by selecting add forms, and that would take you right over to your association library. You also have the ability to add in PDF documents if you're wanting to execute this as an entire file. So if you select upload documents, you would be uploading a document from your desktop, and that document would not be mapped or fillable as the association forms are. However, once you get to the DigiSign portion, which we will eventually get to, that's where you're going to be able to add in your signature, initial, any toolbar item needed there. Now we're just going to go ahead and select on these two documents and then proceed by selecting fill and send. And then just like that, what we've done is we've
Say that
grabbed
they were
those,
taking pictures. It said that little girl.
just like that, we've grabbed over those documents. And as I scroll down, you're going to be able to see that these are mapped and fillable exactly as they are in the association. Now you're also going to be able to see that it's pulling over the personal and professional information that you see here. Again, the benefit of being proactive with that information is it's automatically populating for you, saving us time when executing these. Now you can go ahead and put in the listing date, the expiration date, and then the listing price. Once that's done, we're going to go ahead and proceed by selecting prepare signature. And then would you like to name this envelope name? So for the envelope name, I do like to indicate what's in this envelope, and I'll let you know why once we get to that portion. But I'm going to go ahead and put in the two forms or just a brief summary of what's in here. And then below that are the recipients. So I've already indicated Julia is my seller. So we need to go ahead and make sure this gets to her. Because I'm the seller agent, this is going to pull my name over, but I'm going to update this action to no action because regardless, we're going to get a signed document once Julia submits her signatures. So we'll go ahead and select next. And then this is going to lead us to our integrated digital signature tool. Again, we call DigiSign. And as you scroll down within those association forms, you are going to be able to see where it's mapped exactly how it should be based off of your association. Now, as I mentioned, as we started pulling documents over, you can pull in PDFs directly from your desktop. And within DigiSign, the toolbar up at the top is where you're going to be able to place a signature, an initial, date, any toolbar item needed. And you could quickly put that into one of the documents here. In addition, within DigiSign, you can edit the recipients before you officially send this out as well. So on the left-hand side, you're going to see our one and only recipient, Julia. I can select those three dots and select edit recipients. And then I can go ahead and add additional ones in. Let's say I wanted Sierra to review this. And then action required, we want her to sign and then select save. So what this did is we're going to go ahead and send these over to our clients. However, we also have the ability to group the signing order. So let's say I don't even want Sierra to see this until Julia signs. I'm going to select that signing group that you see here, and I'm going to update that to signing group 2 and then select save. So what this is indicating is Julia is going to sign first, and until Julia submits her signature, Sierra won't even see this. Once Julia officially gets her signature submitted, it will then go to Sierra to go ahead and approve, review, or put in her initial, whatever you indicated for that. But I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Just keep Julia, select save, and we're going to go ahead and proceed by selecting send. Now, this is how your client is going to receive this email. So again, this is just a personal preference of mine. I like to go ahead and update this with the property address. And the reason being is think of all of the emails that you get as an agent. And rather than guessing what this might belong to, I just like to go ahead and put this in here. That way, when you receive it back, you already know what address this is affiliated with. And then you can put a nice customized message in here and then select send for signatures. Now you'll see here, once we send that, we've gone from Forms tab immediately on over to the Envelope tab. And if you remember a couple slides back, I said why I like to indicate what is in each envelope. And that is because the more documents, maybe you're individually sending certain things out at separate times, the more envelopes you're going to have here. And rather than guessing what's in each envelope or having to navigate in here, I just always like to have that summary. Again, just a personal preference. I just find that helpful. Now, here you're going to be able to see the date sent as well as the status. And that status is always going to be reflecting in real time. So just to give you a little bit of history here, SkySlope started for compliance reasons, and we want to put compliance into as many features as we possibly can, which the first compliance area you're going to see here is these 3 dots. You'll have a view history option here on the right-hand side, and this is going to show you all activity for just this specific envelope. So you're going to see when it was created, when it was sent, and the current status of this activity. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and navigate from our shoes here as the agent, and we're going to go ahead and hop on into what your client will see when you send over any envelope. So again, we're now in our client shoes. My name will be replaced by yours, and then there's that property address in the subject line. And then when they select on in here, they're going to see that their signature has been requested. There's that nice personalized message you can include. And then to get started to review, they just need to select get started here. Every time that they hop on in here, it will ask for them to accept their e-signature terms. And that is just to confirm that they know their signature is being requested. Once they select I agree, they can read word for word here. Once they're ready to start signing, they just need to select the start button in the upper left-hand corner, and it will take them down to each required field. They do have the ability to customize their signature and their initial, and then this will walk them through each required field. So what this is doing, it's ensuring to your client that they can't even select finish signing here because it's grayed out until they get in all required items. And then this is also going to reassure you as the agent that they're not even going to be able to get this signed document that you will not be able to get this signed document until all their signatures have been submitted as well. Now, once you get down to the last required field, you'll see it won't take us down any further. It stopped right there and immediately hyperlinked the finish signing button. And then another just cheat code here for them is they can select, or they can see 21 out of 21 required fields has been completed. Now, when they select finish signing, they can download this there to their desktop to reference at any time. And then when you scroll on over to your SkySlope account, you'll see the status has been marked to completed. So what we've done is we've started with the association forms. We've executed those. And now we want to pull this into a property file. So we're going to navigate from SkySlope Forms, which we currently are, and we are going to go ahead and navigate on back to SkySlope Suite. So again, this is where we started. The next step is going to be dependent on who you represented on the forms portion. If I had represented the buyer, I would go ahead and select Create New, which you see here, and I would select Create New Transaction. But because we were representing the seller, we will select Create New Listing. And then representation type, you'll already be in your office. And then the benefit, again, of having everything in SkySlope is everything is integrated. So we're picking up where we left off. And what I mean by that is it's going to say enter or select a property. You'll select on in here and you're going to be able to pull over the forms file that we already started. So you're going to see here, this is where we began. We'll pull over that forms file and it's already populating a lot of the questions that we were going to have here anyways. The one thing that you will need to indicate is you will need to go ahead and select a checklist for this property. You will have one checklist to pull when creating a listing, one checklist if that listing is converted from a listing to a transaction, or if you began as a transaction, you get to pull one checklist for the transaction. So just to summarize, you're pulling one checklist for a listing, one checklist, separate checklist for a transaction. Now we'll go ahead and input in our, we'll go ahead and input in the sale and listing commission. And then just like that, we've officially created our property file. So here you're going to be able to see within this file, there's different tabs here. Listing tab is going to have all information pertaining to this specific listing. Contacts tab, any contact affiliated with this listing. And then the most frequently used tab for you, the agents, are going to be is going to be this checklist tab. This is where you're going to be able to see your checklist and then all of the documents that are either required and if applicable underneath that status. Now, here you're going to be able to see that full list. Here's the applicable, here's required. And you can attach by selecting this attach button here. It'll take you on over to documents and you can pull over any attachments. You can also drag items directly from your desktop into one of these sections here. Now, the next thing that I want to show you is actually probably one of my favorite features with SkySlope. That is this property specific email that you see within this listing. Anytime you create a listing, anytime you create a transaction, it will automatically create this property specific email that you see here. And what you're able to do with this is copy this email and you can CC this in your correspondence with your clients. If there's ever a PDF sent with this property specific email, that will automatically be stored underneath the documents tab. So let me show you what I mean by that. We're going to reference an email that Julia sent us earlier this week. And I want this listing packet to be stored within that property file that we just came from. So what I'm going to do is select forward, type in that property specific email and select send. Now, what I just did was rather than download the packet, get into the platform, upload the packet, get it where it's meant to be, we're taking out all of that manual work there for you. And navigating back on over to SkySlope, as I mentioned, anything sent to this email will automatically be stored underneath the Documents tab. So when I navigate on over to Documents, that listing packet we just sent from Julia's email is already here waiting for us. Now below that, you'll see those two association forms that we originally started with in SkySlope Forms. So you can start a property file even if those forms haven't been signed it will automatically be integrated into your property file as long as you follow the appropriate steps by creating the forms file first, sending out those association forms, and then if you want, you could navigate to create a property file. If not, you could wait for those association forms to be signed, then create a property file. But you'll see that they will automatically be integrated here within your property file without you having to do anything. Now, from one great feature to another, I want to go ahead and walk through the ability to split apart those large packets. So think of the large packets that you receive, and maybe you're currently printing them out, separating them, uploading them, whatever you need to do. You have the ability to split apart those large documents directly here within SkySlope. Now, what I mean is we're going to reference that packet that we sent over from Julia. We're going to select this empty box on the left-hand side, and we're going to go ahead and select split. Now, when we select that, we do have an AI component, and the more that you start to break apart these documents, the more that the system will learn. But we're going to go ahead and clear suggestions here and do this manually. So let's say you're going through, you're looking through the documents and you want to go ahead and split these apart. You'll do that by selecting underneath new document name on the left-hand side. Now, this is going to give a drop down of what is on your checklist. So here I know my agency agreement. We're going to indicate what page it begins, what page it ends. And just for fun, we'll add in one more. Now, the next step is maybe you're not quite ready to attach this to the checklist. You could select split, and what the split button would do is it will keep the original document and then it will split it into these three, how you've indicated it on the left-hand side. However, for our demonstration, we are going to go ahead and split and assign. So we're going to split these, which again, these will still be stored underneath the Documents tab, but we're also going to assign it to our checklist. So let's select split and assign. When I select on that, you're going to be able to see that you've split 3 docs and 3 were attached to your checklist. So let's navigate on over to our checklist to see what that looks like. And now you're going to see those top 3 required statuses are now updated to in review. The in review status indicates that you have done your job as the agent as for now, and they are now in the review. They are now in the hands of your admin team to either approve or deny the documents that you've sent over. Now, anytime your admin team makes either they accept an item, they reject an item, they make a comment, it will also send you over an email. So we're going to navigate back on over to my email. And in my inbox, I have an email from Broker Bob with a subject saying checklist update. When I select on in here, you're going to be able to see the checklist has been updated. You're going to see exactly what property this checklist belongs to. And then from even within that email, you're going to have a bird's eye view of that checklist. So as the agent, you're going to be able to see, awesome, looks like my listing agreement was marked completed. I don't even need to worry about that now. I still need to get in a copy of the MLS printout because this is showing a required status. And then if your admin team has marked or rejected an item, it will then come across as an incomplete status, and they can indicate why it was marked incomplete. Here, you're going to be able to see missing signature on page 2, which means as the agent, you can select go to checklist, go straight to the agency agreement and get whatever was missing to resubmit to your team. It's a great way to keep up with your own workflow. Now, if you uploaded something before you needed to, no worries. All you need to do is select on this X here. It will ask if you want to remove the document, and then you can select remove. It will always revert back to its original status. So you'll see there, it went from in review and reverted back to the required status. Now, if you have an interested buyer, you could go ahead and select accept contract. and it will go ahead and ask if you want to create a transaction, and it will convert this listing directly over to a transaction file. Now, the transactions are exactly where we're headed to next. We've walked through creating a new file, again, dependent on the representation. So transaction or a listing. The more listings you create, you can toggle on over to view listings to view all of the listing files that you've created. And then on the left-hand side here, just like view listings, you can view all transactions you've created. So let's navigate on into there because I want to show you what a transaction file looks like. Here, we're just going to hop on into one of our top ones here, and you can see it looks pretty similar to our listing file. Instead of the listing tab, we now have the transaction tab. Same context tab here. The only difference you will see is going to be the commission tab. That commission tab is going to be where the sales price is stored, the listing commission, as well as the sales commission. And then checklist tab, again, most frequently used tab. Instead of seeing the listing documentation for the transaction side, you will now have a sales documentation checklist. However, if this originated as a listing, as you scroll all the way down, that listing documentation will come over to the transaction, keeping everything in one file here for you. We've covered the documents tab. However, I want to cover that log tab. As mentioned within the envelopes activity, you will have a log for every single property file you create. Within that log, you're going to have every single activity that took place within this file logged here. So you're going to be able to see if you put in a check note, if you added a doc, if you added a commission, anything that's been here will be stored underneath this log tab. If you sent any emails, it will be hyperlinked as you see here. And if you select on email received, it's going to show your entire email. However, it will also show the attachment. So if you wanted to quickly see the attachment, you could just select on that attachment and see what was sent over from that client. Now, at any time, you can go ahead and cancel this transaction. Just know, anytime you cancel a transaction, it will be sent over to your admin team for them to officially cancel out that transaction. Now, if this was canceled and it started as a listing, know that you would have the ability to have it reactivate the listing. That way you're only losing the transaction, you're not losing the listing file. Now, you will have a more drop-down box here, and that's going to allow for you to view access archives. So if any files have been archived, as well as any canceled contracts. Keep in mind that SkySlope never deletes anything. However, you can reorganize them. Rather than combing through a huge list of transactions, if you know it was canceled, you could quickly hop on into the canceled contracts tab, locate that file, and find that there rather than having to comb through everything. You do have the ability to set any tasks or reminders there for yourself. If you want to view those, you just hop on in there. And then we have the working documents tab, which we'll navigate on into. The only one you'll really have access to is going to be the personal docs that you see here. And underneath the personal docs, this is where you are going to be able to add folders, add documents that you want readily available in your account, because only you will have visibility to this portion. Now, the last thing that I want to go ahead and show you is going to be, we walked through DigiSign when sending out any association forms. However, I want to go ahead and maybe we want to be proactive with sending something out for signatures. Even if we don't have a forms file, even if we don't have a property file, you could select new envelope. You could grab an attachment from your desktop. And then just as normal, you'd add in recipients and then you'd go through that toolbar item put in a signature, initial, anything needed. But you might be thinking, well, if I don't have a property file created, where is that going to land if it's signed? And it will land underneath that working documents tab that we just came from. So again, you send something out for signature, it doesn't have a property file, it will automatically be stored underneath your documents tab. And then let's say, in the next few months, we create a property file. Once that property file is created, you would just locate the document, select the box, select assign here, and it will allow for you to locate the property file that you want this to live within. So you'd be able to say, there it is, I want to go ahead and assign this to this file, and it would then integrate within that property file. Now, just like SkySlope Forms had set up for your user profile, you will have some setup here in SkySlope Suite. When you select your name, you'll be able to go to My Account. If your email changes, your phone number changes, you can always update that underneath your personal information. And then one thing that I like to go ahead and focus on is the notifications tab. It's a great way for you to keep up with what you're personally working on. So if you're saying, email me if a listing passes the expiration date, you could toggle that on and go through to really indicate how you want to be notified. Of course, just select save. Now that covers everything that I wanted to cover in today's training. I know I did a lot of talking. I hope you just see the benefit of having everything integrated here within SkySlope. It's going to save you a lot of time, everything being integrated in here, as well as the compliance portion. I know was a huge reason of why your brokerage wanted to go ahead and start here with SkySlope. However, as I mentioned in the very beginning, I'm not expecting you to walk away being experts. However, please feel the support of our support team. Again, you can communicate with them via phone, instant messenger, as well as email. In addition, you have access to the help desk at any time. So if you're wanting to look up anything related to being an agent, you'll see I just type in that keyword, go to view all, and you have all of the resources that you need to begin getting comfortable with that workflow. You can see popular topics, additional training, which I highly encourage you to take, as well as knowledge-based based off of features. The other thing is if you want to communicate with our team via chat, you'll find that in the lower right-hand corner of our support page. And what I'll end with is you are going to have questions, and that is totally expected. Please go to support, ask them all of those questions. Your admins are still going to be getting into their own groove. So our support team can help with pretty much everything. Please, please go to them with any questions that you have. But that covers everything here for today's training. It looks like some questions came through, but feel free to unmute yourselves, ask any questions. Hank, I don't know if you have anything to say.
Yeah. One just briefly before I open up questions and I stop the recording. So today is July 2nd. We are going to be sending the logins for everybody on Monday, July 14th. Okay, so on Monday, July 14th, everyone will get their SkySlope logins. Okay, you can play around with it. On July 15th, we would like that if you have a new transaction starting on July 15th or later, that you put it into SkySlope. All right. You do not, and I really don't encourage this, do not take everything that you have out of dotloop and just start immediately putting it into SkySlope. Okay. We'll be working two systems at that point, and Brian and I would rather not do that. So if you have anything new starting July 15th, that's when we put it into SkySlope and moving forward. And then anything prior, leave in dotloop. Okay. But only if you have it under contract. So if it's not under contract, you're just working with a buyer, move them into SkySlope. That's perfectly fine. We don't have a problem with that. But again, starting July 15th, we will be live in terms of taking everything moving forward into SkySlope. Now, just note, and I did put this in the chat, SkySlope is not replacing Sisu. SkySlope replaces Dotloop. Okay. The great thing about SkySlope is SkySlope has a product called Books. And right now, SkySlope is putting books together for us to operate and be able to do CDAs all in one platform. That is not ready for us. So we are currently doing SkySlope Dotloop and Sisu. And we're also, when July 15th hits, we are going to be doing SkySlope and Sisu. Okay, until further notice, until that books part of SkySlope is done and ready for us, so that we're all in one platform. So again, we are going to be working right now for the next 2 weeks. We're still in Dotloop. Monday, July 14th, you will get your logins for SkySlope. You'll be able to get into SkySlope. Again, there's going to be tons of questions. I'm going to stop the recording because I don't want to get into that stuff. But July 15th and beyond, that's when we really want you to start using SkySlope exclusively for your transaction management for all of your documents and everything. And I will tell you that Brian, myself, Radek, and the rest of the Florida leadership team with the area leaders, we're going to be working on putting the templates together and the checklist together so that when you are in SkySlope starting July 15th, really the 14th, because I'm sure you guys are going to get in there and get ready, everything will be ready for you. So that is our goal, and where we're at right now. Shantae, do you have anything to add, or Sierra, quickly before I stop this recording and we start taking questions?
Nothing to add on my end.
Okay. Sierra, are we good? I don't know if I know she's in here, but I don't know if she's unmuting. That's okay. All right, so let me stop the recording and then I will start taking questions.